A few moments ago, we spoke about all the things that are, in fact, covered under the BOE coverage and everything else. In this session, we're going to talk about things that are not covered. And this is probably more important than things that are covered, basically, so we must pay attention to these things. Okay, so things that are not covered. Capital portion of the loan. You remember in our previous session, I said to you that the interest on the loan is covered, okay, but not the actual principal itself, okay? So therefore here, the capital portion of the loan is not covered. Now there are some provisions, which we'll talk about later, that could cover that, but for our purposes at this point, okay, the capital portion of the loan is not covered. Only the interest is covered, okay? New capital expenditures are not covered. So for example, if prior to your disability, for example, you had hired a contractor to move the wall and because you want to buy next door or whatever the case may be, those are what we refer to as capital expenditures. So you needed new chairs or whatever, those are all new things that are going to happen sort of after your disability. Those things are not going to be covered either. Okay, so basically all we're saying is what we're going to cover what is there right this minute, not what is potentially going to be there, okay? Very important, salary of the owner. You as the dentist, okay, you're not covered on here. This is, remember, coverage for your business. So basically you should have your own disability plan, separate altogether, 60% of your income, whatever, all that sort of thing. But this is for the business only. So the salary of the owner is simply not covered whatsoever. So that's why I always ask when I'm asking dentist, for example, about the business overhead is, Mr. Dentist, removing your salary, in other words, with the exception of your salary, what does it cost to run your shop? So he says $20,000 a month, whatever it is, that's not including my salary. So that's the business expense right there, okay? The next thing is salary of the owner, the salary of a replacement employee. You may have, for example, again, using the example of a dentist, you may have a good friend that also happens to be a dentist, and he's going to come in and cover for you during a short period of time, let's say, maybe 2 or 3 days of the week, whatever. So there, in other words, you've got somebody that's going to come in and take over temporarily for you your particular duties. That salary will also not be covered, okay? That person will have to pay their own way, you might say. Salary of the independent employee. So when we say an independent employee, it's basically anybody that's under your employee, so it's a situation, but they have means to generate their own income. So for example, in a dental practice, a lot of the dental hygienists, for example, they're independent. So they're capable of earning income themselves. They have their own client base and everything else, even though they may be under your umbrella, basically in your dental practice and everything. But they do have means to develop, to actually earn their own income. Those people will not be covered either. So independent employees, salaries of relatives, that is basically family members, okay? So for example, you're going to have your spouse, let's say, come in, and now he or she is the receptionist because you can't afford the receptionist that you originally have. So you hire maybe one of your family members to come in and basically pay them nothing, you might say, but they're maintain the store until you get better, okay? Or you hire your children, let's say, to come in and clean the office for you on weekends or something, because once again you're trying to cut costs as much as possible. Those also will not be covered either, okay? So you can see that the BOE really is in fact designed to cover the business and nothing more than that. So it's very restricted in terms of what can be covered. So essentially what happens when we sit down with the client, we go through a list of all of the business expenses, and then we'll indicate to the client, basically saying, no, this is not going to be covered, this is not going to be covered, but all the following are covered. So let's say it was $20,000 a month. Once again, waiting period, the usual, 90 days, 6 months, whatever the dentist may want. Benefit period, generally speaking, not more than 24 months. It's most unusual to have 36 months. So most of the time it's 24 months. So from the end of the waiting period, basically the 24 months, it's essentially it kicks in at that point. Okay, but always remember that these are the things here that the insurance company simply will not pay for. Okay. Also remember that BOE is not what we call an indemnity contract. It is a reimbursement contract. So the end result of that is that you will send us your invoices. And then based on those invoices, and let's say the example was 20,000, you send us those invoices and the expenditures for that month, let's say, were $15,000. They will reimburse you for $15,000. So even though you're covered for 20, okay, but your expenditures for that month were only $15,000, you're only going to get a check for $15,000. So the BOE is in fact a reimbursement contract versus an indemnity contract, which says, okay, regardless, you'll be insured, let's say, for $3,000 a month. They don't ask you any questions. They basically just send you a check for $3,000, and they don't really ask you what you're going to spend the money on, okay? The BOE, in fact, is a reimbursement contract. So you basically pay it first, and then we will reimburse you for the expenditures. Now, can I indicate to you that let's say that you send us the invoices and it was only $15,000, but you need $20,000, but your coverage is actually for $20,000. You don't actually lose that $5,000. As you see in a moment, there are ways of mitigating that difference as well. So we'll see you in a moment.